I am a goddess. My mother is the queen, and I am determined that through me she will be seen. Welcome to this first episode of the In Her Image podcast. As you just heard at the beginning of the episode, the anchor for this week's episode is a little mantra that I wrote. This is Sara speaking about my determination to recognize my divinity as a daughter of the Queen of Heaven and to share that recognition and that conviction with others. So this mantra kind of just came to me when I was doing some yoga in the morning, and there's a pose in yoga called goddess pose. And in that pose, I felt this urge to connect with my mother in heaven and consider my connection with her and divinity as her daughter. And this mantra came to mind. So I repeated it to myself every time I would be in that pose when I was doing yoga for months and months. Like that was the only application of this mantra. And I felt a little sheepish about how it says, I'm determined that through me she will be seen. And yet this mantra was mostly something I would say in my head to myself. But it gave me the conviction to be true to this promise I'd made to myself and this direction that I'd felt prompted to go, and to gradually start being more open about this journey that I'm on of seeking my mother in heaven. And as I've been more open, I've shared things on my Instagram. I made an account called My Mother is the Queen, which is a line from this mantra, where I just share thoughts that I've had about Mother in Heaven and have been able to connect with others that way. And I've also been able to be a lot more open and purposeful about teaching my children about the divinity of both of our heavenly parents anytime that's relevant. So that's a little background on this mantra. And we chose it for this first podcast episode because it really defines the direction that we want to go with this podcast. We want to recognize each of our divinity as children of the Queen of Heaven. Of course, we're children of our Heavenly Father, and we talk about that so much. We are also equally children of our Heavenly Mother, and Jess and I are determined that through us, she, our Heavenly Mother, will be seen. So today on this episode, we're going to talk together about kind of our personal stories and how we got to this place and got to be interested in making this podcast and sharing our journeys. So Jess, I'm going to start by asking you first, what got you started on this journey of seeking Heavenly Mother?
I have had this desire for a few years to have the scriptures written in her and she, so that it was more personal and applicable to me. I wish that I could read, Eve fell, that women may be, and women are, that we might have joy. And one day I just thought, I'm just going to start, quote, translating verse by verse while I read the Book of Mormon. And I thought I'll just record these translations in Instagram because I can store as much as I want there. And then if anybody else is interested, they can follow along. I realized right off the bat, okay, all these verses that talk about God or Heavenly Father, that means Heavenly Mother as well. Mm-hmm. And the more I started to kind of see her in the scriptures, the more desire I had to find out, okay, what other symbols are there of her? Where else can we find her? I just started to notice her everywhere. So it sort of spiraled into this desire to connect with her more personally. This is also in a time where in my personal life, I'm a mother of young children. There are so many times when I think I need a divine mother to help me through this. Or, I'm recovering from a birth and my hormones are going insane. And I just think to myself, I need someone who understands this perfectly. A woman's perspective, a woman's comfort. And so I've just felt that void, that need. and started reading, articles and, like you say, finding other accounts on Instagram and so many beautiful artists who depict Heavenly Mother in their paintings, etc. And just realized that there is this treasure trove of information and art about her, and there's no going back for me now.
I have to second that. There is no turning back once you start walking down this path. Yeah, a little bit of my story. So, and of course there are similarities and overlapping, which is why we're here together, because our stories overlapped. But the first time that I really felt a strong connection with my Heavenly Mother was during the birth of my son. And he's my third child. The first two are twins. Their birth went in such a way that I was not able to tap into my feminine power and recognize the wonder and awe of the thing that I was doing as I brought them into the world. But when he was born 3 years later, I prepared differently for that birth experience and walked away from it again, like just with this sense of wonder and awe of my own creative power and how divinely feminine that was, right? And like you say, when you've had these experiences as a mother where you feel the need to connect with a divine feminine power, I felt very similarly. Like that was the most singularly feminine and powerful thing that I'd done. And I felt a need to connect to my mother in heaven, the mother of my spirit, and also the mother of the spirits of these children that I was bringing into the world. And it was gradual. That was over 4 years ago. I mean, it took me months or maybe even a year or two to realize that that experience was putting me on this trajectory to seek for my Heavenly Mother specifically. But as the months and years have passed, it's become, like you said, something that I can't turn back from, this quest to really connect with and find out more about the mother of my spirit and what that means about who I am as her daughter. And I will say that at times, less often recently since I started collaborating with Jess, but more a while back, a year or so ago, there would be so much bitterness in this quest, right? Because I was so frustrated that we speak so much about our Heavenly Father and just next to nothing about our Mother in Heaven. And I was so frustrated with that and starting to feel really bitter. And then I started seeing some of the posts that Jess was making on her scriptures Instagram account, whereas she mentioned she was translating these scriptures, right, by changing the pronouns in them to be directed specifically towards women and finding these connections about Heavenly Mother as she did that. And she did it so faithfully and beautifully that I thought, that's the kind of journey I want to be on, right? Not this bitter and resentful place that I kind of had been in. I just want to be beautifully seeking and celebrating Heavenly Mother and the doctrine that we have and the ways that we can connect with her. So I've been so grateful, Jess, for your example of faith in this journey. And, a little more background about how this podcast happened. I posted shortly after Thanksgiving, President Nelson challenged us to post on social media about what we were grateful for. And I made a post about how grateful I was for the knowledge of my mother in heaven. And I said also in the same breath, I grieve from her absence about in our discourse and in our scriptures and in all the things that we talk about, because I think there's so much power in connecting with her. And it's so difficult to see that she's so missing in so many ways. And Jess commented on that and said, I've been thinking so much about this too. We should start a podcast. And at first I was like, I have so much that I'm doing right now, so many dreams that I'm chasing, ambitions that I'm so passionate about, but neither of us could let that drop. I think once Jess had said, we should do this, again, no turning back. It was like, yes, we should do that. We need to be doing that. So here we are. And thank you for joining us.
Yes. And thank you so much, Sarah, for being willing to do this and for your kind words. I love the mantra that we shared in the beginning. And I didn't know that it was written by you. So that was so fun to learn, because I heard you share it on Instagram on one of your morning walks where you muse about our mother. And ever since I heard you share it, I memorized it, and I try to do it in my morning yoga as well. And so that's just makes it all the more special that was an original Sarah Pixton mantra right there. I love that. So what are some ways do you think that we can help Heavenly Mother be seen?
Well, we can all host podcasts about her.
Perfect.
No, but seriously, I'm so thrilled to be on this journey with you, Jess, doing this because I think it's just a great platform to say, hey, we are on this journey together. And if you are too, listen in and let's connect. I also think we've both talked about this a bit before, but we're both using social media. You're way more consistent about it than I am, as a way to help Heavenly Mother be seen. And so again, for our listeners, if you're interested in following those accounts, Jess's handle is at her.scriptures, and mine is my mother is the queen, with dots in between each word. So my.mother.is.the.queen.
Great. And I love that you mentioned as well that you're teaching your children to acknowledge her. I think we can do so much good by just adding her to our dialogue, just using the phrase Heavenly Parents instead of Heavenly Father, and talking about her, because we talk about Heavenly Father so much, like you say, and I'm just so excited to have a whole podcast full of musings about our beautiful Mother God.
I love it too. And yeah, like you said about teaching our children, that has been one of really the fabulous things about this pandemic we've been doing, and the home church thing, because it's been really an important time to think, okay, what are the most important things that I want my children to know as I'm their sole gospel teacher during this time? And something we really focused on in our family was just talking about our Heavenly Parents. And like, it's so easy, right? Anytime you're talking about God, you say our Heavenly Parents and our Heavenly Mother and our Heavenly Father. And it's been so awesome to see in like family night, if the kids are in charge of teaching a lesson, they'll often want to include like a little play that we put on or something. And they'll be like, okay, they're divvying out parts, and they'll be like, okay, you're Jesus and your Heavenly Mother and your Heavenly Father. And like, she's an integral part of the Heavenly Family as it should be, right? But I often think of the line from, I'm sure we'll do an episode focused on this, but from, ironically, Oh My Father by Eliza R. Snow, where she says, in the heavens are parents single, no, the thought makes reason stare. And once you start talking about your heavenly parents all the time, it really makes reason stare to just talk about our Heavenly Father as if he's a bachelor.
Yes. And I love how readily and easily our children accept that concept.
Right.
Like, it does just make perfect sense. Like, of course, Heavenly Mother and Heavenly Father.
Yeah. Just like we have them at home. And yeah, they'll be interested as we've started going back to church in person, and people will, exclude her from the discourse in sacrament meeting talks or testimonies. My kids will be like, they forgot to say Heavenly Mother. And I'm like, I know. We're not going to forget about her, though.
I can't wait for them to go back to primary where they're the ones sharing, and educating their peers on even just using her name to help people kind of get that in their brain. Yes, Heavenly Mother, too.
And I will say, if you are looking for an awesome resource to just, like, start doing this, because for whatever reason, it can feel intimidating to get started if it's not like part of the culture and the ways that you've been teaching the gospel in your family so far or whatever. A book that we got that I love so much that was a really good place for us to start, and we keep going back to, is Our Heavenly Family, Our Earthly Families by Bethany Brady Spalding and MacArthur Krishna. And it has on the cover a beautiful, beautiful piece of art by Caitlin Connolly that depicts our heavenly parents and all of their children. And it's just these beautiful bite-sized pieces that we would use like for family night lessons, where it just talks about a virtue that's important in families, and it talks about how our heavenly parents teach and exemplify that virtue, and how in our family we can live that virtue. And it's just so simple and beautiful, and I love it. So I think it's a great way to help our Heavenly Mother be seen.
I love that.
Do you have any other thoughts, Jess, about how we can help Heavenly Mother be seen?
Yeah, I think any way we can include her in our dialogue with each other, in our questions, in our art. And I think we'll explore some more ways as we go through some more episodes.
Absolutely. That's what this whole thing is about, right? Of diving into what that looks like to help our Heavenly Mother be seen. Not that she needs help, though, right? Like, she is omnipotent and omniscient as a goddess, and is there so much more than we realize. We have just kind of been blind and deaf to her, I think.
Yes, absolutely. We're missing out,
Absolutely.
We're missing out.
So how will our society be better for knowing our Heavenly Mother?
It will be so beneficial to both men and women.
Yes.
I loved how you were sharing your birth story of the power that you felt. That same kind of power can just fill our lives if we realize, if she truly is the Queen of Heaven and I'm her daughter, then I have that potential within me. That can change lives. That can change the lives of women. It can change the lives of men. It can change the way that we see each other and treat each other. I think that it can be a healing balm for our society, honestly.
Yeah. You think of just the heartache and heartbreak of a family that loses their mother through tragedy or whatever other experience, like an earthly family, how tragic that is, and how you would just mourn that loss. And I think that when we begin to see our mother and where she ought to be in our gospel study and our worship and our understanding of the heavens and eternity, then we begin to feel that sense of mourning and brokenness for this earthly family that has lost their mother centuries ago and lived for so long largely without her. Though, as we said, she is there, right?
Yes.
And it's us that we need to open our eyes and our ears and find how we can look for her and find her.
Absolutely. I think in our theology, we're fond of saying that Satan's greatest attack is against the family. But as I've started to do this work, I've started to feel deep within my heart that his greatest attack isn't against the family, it's against the capital family, our heavenly family. He's using that, I think, as a model to take out one of those essential players. And I think you're right, it's devastating and crippling to the entire family. And there's a lot of work to be done to put her back in her place.
All right, so here we go. I'm ready to do the work. Are you ready to do it?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay. Join us every week as we do this work of seeking and celebrating our Heavenly Mother. And as we do that, we'll deeply connect with the divinity within ourselves and within each other.